Return to Hunterville and the Mānuka Honey Shop. Written by Stuart Duff. Narrated by Jerry Short. Aoife in Galway, Ireland. "Aoife, can you please pour me another glass of beer?" "Of course," replied Aoife, as she had one eye firmly fixed on the clock on the wall, and one eye fixed on her favourite and most loyal customer, Mr. Ryan O'Leary. The clock was showing 6 p.m. Although he was her favourite customer at the King Brian pub, she actually knew very little about him. He was 70 years old, retired, travelled a lot, lived alone, and never talked about family. That much she had gleaned from him over the past 6 months. She wasn't even sure if he had a family. When she did converse with him, it was a case of the proverbial like getting water out of a stone. He always came to the pub alone, sat alone, and left alone. He rarely spoke to anybody, and it took a long time before he communicated with Aoife. But the one thing she did know, once conversation between the two of them was a bit more natural, was that he was polite, conservative, friendly, quiet, and reliable. She definitely had a soft spot for him. It was hard to say exactly why, but every time she talked to him, even though they were just for short periods, it was reassuring and comforting. Aoife felt she could trust him, even though there was a pronounced generational difference. The pub scene in the city centre of Galway was lively. The setting of the King Brian pub was both historical and picture-perfect, sitting close to the right bank of the River Corrib, a few hundred metres before it flowed out into Galway Bay. His clientele was a hodgepodge of interesting and not-so-interesting types. The arty-farty, the fashionistas, the wannabes, the never-will-bes, the hard-working, the artisan foodies, the depressed, the depressing, the optimistic, and the musical. The bar food was good and hearty and affordable. The coddle and collar and cabbage were the real deal. Aoife O'Brien had been working at the King Brian pub for just over 12 months, since she had moved to Galway from the family farm in Ballinrobe. Ballinrobe was a small rural town on the banks of the River Robe, some 2 kilometres from Lake Mask and some 40 kilometres north of Galway. The family farm, which was a modest 20 hectares, 50 acres, was a specialist sheep farm with minor intensive cropping. The sheep were bred for both meat and wool.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?